I'd like to share a personal experience, and I think many of you can relate to it. Those moments when you're in a social situation, struggling to hear what people in front of you are saying, but you don't have the courage to ask them to repeat again because you feel ashamed of your hearing situation. So you just go along with it, nodding, smiling, pretending you understood. And situations like that can be devastating, but sometimes they turn into something else, something you didn't see coming at all. And when it finally reveals itself, you realize just how wrong we all are. My name is Per Moneo. I'm a sound engineer, musician, composer and sound artist that also work as a tinnitus and hearing loss coach. Together with my wife and business partner, Irene Moneo, we run this channel, Navigate Tinnitus, where we talk about everything having to do with tinnitus and hearing loss from a sound engineer and musician's point of view. If you want to learn how to navigate tinnitus, why not hit that like button, that subscribe button and the notification bell, and you won't miss a thing. So, a couple of years ago, I attended a CBT therapy for tinnitus with 12 other tinnitus patients struggling with tinnitus and hearing loss. Every single one of us with different hearing issues of various degrees. We met regularly for tinnitus therapy, and every time we had a coffee break in the middle of the session. This therapy group was at another location than the hospital's regular location. It was a beautiful old building with high ceiling, walls, floor and roof, all made out of stone, just like in the good old days. It was very beautiful. The only problem was the acoustics that were terrible. All the stone surfaces made the sound bounce around, turning everything into a blur of sound to my ears. Anyway, I got myself a cup of coffee and started talking to the lady next to me. We talked about everything from the weather to dogs. Or rather, I believe that's what we were talking about. Because the truth is, I had extremely difficult hearing what she was saying. In the beginning, I asked her to repeat what she told me. And sometimes I asked her to even repeat herself for the third time. I started to feel really uncomfortable with the situation, and it didn't feel polite to ask her to repeat every sentence. So I just started nodding my head as if I had heard what she was saying, even though I hadn't heard a single word. I tried to raise the volume of my hearing aids when she didn't see. I was too embarrassed to show that to her that I was having trouble hearing. But the sound just got even more blurry with the hearing aids turned up. I tried to make it look like I have heard what she was saying. I tried to connect and be a part of the conversation, but I could only catch fragments of the conversation. Just enough to stay in the moment, but not enough to understand. And still, I did not ask her to repeat it one more time, because something held me back. Shame. So I kept nodding my head. I kept smiling. I pretended. I think you can relate to this. But inside, there was this growing tension, because I knew sooner or later something is going to go wrong, and when it does, it will be more than awkward. All I wished for in that moment was that the coffee break should end so that I would not have to be in that situation anymore. I felt so stupid, so worthless, and my self-confidence was totally gone. Finally, I was saved. The coffee break was finally over, and we continued the therapy session. I don't remember what the session was about. All I can remember was that I kept thinking about the situation and got more and more sad for every minute. I could literally feel how my tears wanted to rush down my cheek, but I kept myself together as good as I could. As soon as the therapy session was done, I went out and immediately my tears started flowing. I walked through the city crying, even though that I felt ashamed as well, but I just could not stop myself from doing it. And during the 1-hour train trip back home, my tears kept flooding, but I tried to hide it from the other passengers. I pulled up my laptop and I started writing down words, sentences that turned into 2 complete pages. I wrote down what I felt, and honestly, it felt a bit better. I did not realize it until I left the train, but I had actually wrote the first poem in my life. When I went off the train, I went straight to the studio and continued writing, this time with music as my tool. I had so much inside me that wanted to come out, and I let it do so. I was so sad of my situation and the fact that I could not accept for myself or for anyone else that I was having difficulty hearing the other person in that situation. And at the same time, I realized how stupid that was. I mean, I was at the therapy with a group of people that all of us was having different hearing issues. That is why we were there to begin with. And even though everyone in the room was not only aware of hearing difficulties, but also having it themselves, and yet I did not have the courage to tell the person in front of me that I was having difficulty hearing what she were saying. And the reason for that was not me. It was not my fault. It was all because that the room had such bad acoustics. How could they even place a group of people with bad hearing in such an environment with those acoustics? This was simply not an adequate place for a tinnitus therapy. And I felt that I needed to let them know about it. I got myself courage and told the group about my experience, my acting, and how I had been crying all the way home. I turned to the kind lady and told her that I actually had not heard a word of what she had said. And I waited for her reaction, which was something that I couldn't imagine in my wildest fantasy. She turned to me and said, "You know what? I couldn't hear a word about what you said either." I almost started laughing at that point. There were 2 adult people talking to each other, knowing that we both are having hearing issues, and yet we don't have the gut to tell the other person that we are having difficulty hearing what they are saying. Shame. That is shame in its purest form. We are so ashamed of what other people would think of us if they knew our weak sides. That is at least what we believe, when in fact it's the opposite. When we tell people what we need help with, they will, in almost every case I have experienced, will be supportive, doing everything they can to help us. After that experience, I now will speak right away if I get into a meeting in a room with bad acoustics. Because if I am having difficulty to hear in that environment, I am certain that most other people also will be having difficulty in that environment. And most of the time, when we change room for the meeting, there are almost always one other person, at least with normal hearing, that thank me for that, since they had difficult hearing as well. I try to be more open about my hearing issues when needed nowadays, without feeling ashamed. But hey, it's easier said than done, even for me. But I practice for each time, and the more I practice, the better I get at it. I know that you understand what I'm trying to say with this video. We all need to be more brave and to tell other people when we are having difficult hearing. You and me are not a bad person just because we have some hearing issues. And the fact that the person in front of us might have a hearing issue as well, but we can't see it. I would like to thank you for having the patience and listening to this experience that I had. I think one of the best ways of dealing with difficult situations in life is by sharing them with others. It might feel difficult, but it feels so much better when we do it. And I would love to hear about situations that have been challenging to you and what kind of reactions you got. Let me know in the comments, and if you like to keep an eye on this channel, I would be super grateful if you would like to subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell, and I'll keep posting more videos like this. And for now, breathe, relax, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao.